Welcome into another post-game stream after another Michigan victory. Wolverines get it done over the now previously unbeaten Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders, and it was pretty convincing in the second half. Michigan wins it over MTSU, and they do it with a strong second half. It was 36-30 at halftime. Then Michigan went on a 50-31 surge in the second half. Wolverines led by Yaxel Lendeborg. We'll hear from him in a little bit. Dusty May in a little bit as well. And we'll have Mike Boynton Jr. stopping by momentarily. First off, just this game and how Michigan has gone about scheduling these quote bye games, right? When you have a team from a conference you probably don't know a whole lot about, those are opportunities for these schools to come in, play a high major team, but also make money to help support, fund their program. And if you look at a lot of team schedules, not throwing everybody out into this classification, but a lot of times you'll see 200 plus, 300 plus in terms of the Ken Pom ranking. MTSU came in 149 entering play today. This is a team that had a couple of NCAA tournament wins last decade, and 4 times in the Final Four run for FAU under Coach May, that FAU team lost, and one of them was to MTSU. That was in Murfreesboro, and MTSU almost got him a second time in the conference tournament that would have turned FAU into an at-large. And well, in those smaller leagues, those oftentimes one-bid leagues, even if you feel like you have a pretty good resume, it makes it for a very nerve-wracking selection Sunday. So pretty cool that these two coaches, Dusty May and Nick McDevitt, they were hired 2 days apart at MTSU and FAU. Dusty 2 days before it was Nick McDevitt taking over at MTSU. And they, as Dusty said earlier in the week, an old friend, and pretty cool that he was able to schedule. But if you look at Michigan's bye games, we all know locally about the Oakland Golden Grizzlies brand, their program beating Kentucky a couple of years ago. That's a well-known entity. Also, the fact that Michigan played MTSU in this one, and there are 2 bye games coming up in December. LaSalle is the lowest ranked of them all, but they've got a proud tradition. And I mean, McNeese, who, Michigan fans saw them come to Chrysler and win a couple of years ago, they're a top 100 Ken Pom team. So Michigan will be favored in these games, and there's not a whole lot of at least external gain from facing off against teams like this. But it's a great chance at a quad 3 versus a quad 4, and it's a great opportunity to get really tested before Michigan goes to Las Vegas coming up this week for at least 2 and probably 3 awesome opportunities to pick up marquee wins, add to the NCAA tournament resume, and get where I think a lot of people think this team can get to. What were some of Dusty May's takeaways from that second half performance here tonight?
In the second half, I thought our defensive intensity was in the first half, our defensive intensity wasn't bad. I thought we were aggressive in the passing lanes. We were more disruptive than we've been lately. But I thought our ability to finish around the rim allowed us to set our defense, and we weren't on our heels so much. But Middle's a good program. Nick's a good coach. They had good shooting. We knew the three-point shot was going to be pivotal if they were going to come in here and knock us off, and we didn't defend the three-point shot very well. Several of them, it seems, I say at least a few were off of second shots, and we've got to do a much better job of simply jumping and pursuing more rebounds.
So that was Dusty May on the second half. Obviously, the big individual story in this ball game, the effort of Yaxel Lendeborg. Wondered about the stats, right? That was a big conversation point. We saw it in the exhibitions. Yaxel Lendeborg with some big-time box scores. That hand issue against Oakland popped up. Michigan had 2 grinded-out wins against Wake Forest, against, on the road, TCU, but 25 points, 12 boards, 3 assists in 28 really solid minutes. And, hey, the fact that he had a goose egg in the turnover category, really strong. Here was Coach May on Yaks.
Yaks is someone that's too unselfish, and we've been trying to get him touches in the flow of the game without getting super organized. And tonight we basically said every dead ball, we're going to try to play through him as much as we can. And he created a lot of advantages for us. I thought his ability to finish around the rim, his hands are so strong. And so, we've got to be able to shift when he's playing with the 2 bigs to be more of a spacer and cutter. And then when he's in without the 2 bigs, he can play all over the court and go down to that mid post and make a living like he did tonight.
So there's Dusty on Yaks. How about Yaks' thoughts? First off, on Michigan's performance in particular in that big second half.
I feel like second half we really harped on trying to kill them on the offensive glass. Big emphasis at halftime and just playing with a lot more aggression, being the ones to punch them in the mouth first. And I feel like that half we definitely did. First half was a little lackluster, especially with the turnovers. But all around, I think it was like a B plus game.
I think that's a fair grade and assessment when you go into halftime. It was a 6-point Michigan lead. Again, never really felt like it was in doubt by any stretch of the imagination. MTSU had a couple of early leads in the ball game, but for the most part, Michigan had control. And yeah, certainly from a rebounding standpoint, and we'll have Mike Boynton Jr. stopping by momentarily. He had some interesting halftime thoughts with Terry Mills about Michigan's rebounding in the first half. You look at the total numbers, Michigan was +8 on the glass. But MTSU actually scooped up more offensive rebounds, 13-12, than Michigan did. That was one odd aspect to last week. Michigan got the 2 victories, but they were outshot. I think it was 22 by Wake Forest and then 9 by TCU. Now, a lot of that, especially in Fort Worth, had to do with the turnovers. Michigan coughed it up 22 times in that game, 17 times in the overtime win over Wake. But MTSU still took 2 more shots, much more manageable. You're not going to have a 20-shot swing a whole lot. That Wake game was a bit surprising, and the overtime did not help matters. But about even, yeah, Michigan, I think, could have had more offensive rebounds in this one. I thought this quote, and we'll have the full interviews with Dusty and Yaks on our audio edition of Defend the Block. But Yaks, when asked about some of the aggressiveness, he told me pregame that MTSU, who he played twice at UAB, that's a pretty common non-conference clash. They're not too far apart from one another geographically. But he said that the one thing that stood out about MTSU when he played them the 2 times while he was a Blazer was how hard they played. And between that and just how Yaks has looked at his own game, how he has interpreted it, I thought this was a fascinating comment after the game.
Today was the first day I can say I was completely trying to be aggressive throughout. So it's a big step in the right direction for me. Just trying to show that I'm dominant. I can be dominant, and I didn't come here to just be so timid like I have been so far. So today was the right step in the direction for me.
Really interesting comment, and Yaks is somebody, in getting to know him, the fact that he is so green in the game of basketball. He has not played it for very long. This is not something where he was getting on people's radars in middle school, freshman, sophomore year of high school. He wasn't playing basketball at that point, and yet here he was as one of the top NBA prospects in the summer. He was highly sought after in the transfer portal, had 2 incredible stat-stuffing years at UAB. But remember, he was a 3-year JUCO player. And that comes with a unique setup where basically the only people who are really watching you are potential D1, D2 coaches, whatever it might be, saying, hey, maybe we can get this player to come in, get into our school and do some things, grow, learn. So Yaks is pretty open about that unique setup, and he's pretty willing to share what his discussions are. I mean, he has said, I need to work harder. Dusty May has talked about the fact that he had a great quote in the offseason. You got to climb the mountain to get to another mountain. There are so many ways that the staff is trying to push Yaxel Lendeborg. There are so many ways that they have the ability to push Yaks, because, I mean, the talent is still pretty untapped. It is an ability for Yaks to, gosh, I mean, he can do so many things on this floor and with this team in particular that I'm just really impressed that he was able to do that in this ball game and be as honest as he was, because he's somebody who the talent is so noticeable. But talking about the selfish aspect, I think if there's an option for Yaks, and again, I haven't talked to him about this necessarily, but if there is an option for Yaks to have basically the same likelihood of success on a play, and there's 1 of 2 options. He can either pass it and it's an 80% chance of success, or shoot it and it's 80% chance of success. I think he is always going to pass it. That's just how he's built, how he operates. And to do that when you haven't really been ingrained in the game as long as he has, he is somebody who, and I really think we're not going to see the full Yaxel Lendeborg this season. And that does not mean, I mean, of course, we didn't see the full Franz Wagner or Danny Wolf or whoever, right? I mean, everybody's always going to continue to ascend. But he has so much that's still left to get out that I'm really fascinated by what it can be. Some other aspects from this game that were really interesting, because beyond Yaks, I mean, nobody had more than 10 points in this ball game for Michigan. Elliot Cadeau and Adai Mara got there. But a few thoughts on each of the players, and here in a little while we'll be joined by Mike Boynton Jr. on the show. But the start of Will Cheddar, something that was really interesting, Dusty had alluded to in his Monday media availability. He had said, and let me get the exact quote, I want to make sure I'm getting right, quote, still searching for the right combinations. And I kind of got the vibe that there was a potential tweak to the lineup, but I don't think we're done. If you go back to the FAU days for Dusty May, he is completely unbothered by the who starts, who goes out there. It's interesting for the football parallel. Steve Kasula, Michigan tight end coach, spoke to the media this afternoon at Schembechler Hall, and Deacon Tonelli got his first start. And Kasula said, he's like, I don't care, but it does matter to the players getting that start. And that was Tonelli's first start. He's an Illinois kid, all that. It's relevant, right? It's important. It's one thing to say you play at Michigan, football, basketball, whatever. Another thing to say you're a starter. But truly, I don't think there will be any hesitation, even if Dusty and this staff says, hey, we feel like for this, against this lineup that we're facing in insert Big Ten game, Will, Roddy, Trey, Adai, whoever it may be, they give us a better chance just for that 3-4 minute section. Oh, well, Adai Mara started at TCU, and he came out 2 minutes, 15 seconds into the game. Okay, is what it is. All good. But Will gave some instant energy, that 3 right out of the gates. That was definitely helpful. Interesting that I thought one of the key plays in the game ended up being, I want to make sure I got this right. Yeah, Trey McKinney's only bucket was a 3-pointer at the 12-12 mark. And if you remember, that was the play where it was an inbound into the far corner in front of the Middle Tennessee bench. And I mean, it was a catch, instant trigger. Trey was ready to let it fly, and he had one heck of a shot and knocked it down. Now, he ended up being 1 for 10, so didn't obviously work out for him like it had in the previous games. But even if the willingness to shoot is there, but I thought that was one of the bigger plays of the game. And how about the role that Roddy Gale has right now? Gale, none of these guys are going to stuff the box score, but Gale, that sliding on the floor, able to help lead to an and one. That was one of the best plays of this game for a team that, other than Yaks, didn't have a single player above 10 points. Yaks played 28 minutes. Morez Johnson Jr. played 26 minutes. No one played any more than 21 in this ball game, yet you see the effort from Trey, from Roddy Gale. Elliot Cadeau had 2 turnovers in the first 2 minutes and 13 seconds of this ball game after having a 6 turnover performance the previous game at TCU, and he didn't have another turnover the rest of the game. So a lot of progression, even if it's not going to be this, a lot of these players on Michigan's roster could go out there, and for other programs in college basketball, they could score 20 points a game, have 8-10 rebounds, all that, right? Assists are a little bit more fluid because you need to actually be able to, you need your teammates to hit shots in order for those to be successful. But yeah, I mean, I just really impressed with how the totality of this came together for Michigan. You'll hear it on the audio version of Defend the Block, but I asked Dusty, hey, who else stood out? Because, it's easy to look at the box score and you don't see anybody north of 10 points. Okay, who else stood out? And he mentioned Morez, who, I mean, I'm super impressed. I feel like on a team where there's still so much to learn about the exact roles, about what this team can bring to the table, about different rotations that, I mean, Dusty admitted we might not ever actually figure out what this will look like, then, there's so much to learn. I think probably right now, Roddy and Morez have the combination best of understanding exactly what the role is and being able to do it at a high level. Elliot Cadeau probably has right now the most defined role, starting point guard, distributor, all of that. It's getting there, right? He had the big game against Oakland, and it hasn't quite synced up with the 6-turnover game at TCU being the main aspect. P. Maximus bringing up a great point. You can tell we haven't gelled together right now. We seem unorganized with our sets. And I definitely think there's some truth to that. We saw that at times in the first half. Part of it is truly for a Conference USA team, MTSU has some size. I mean, their starting lineup, 2 6'3" guards, but Chris Loof was 6'11". Then he shot 3 threes in the first 5 minutes of the game. You had 6'9" Torrey Alston, who wasn't much of a factor. He had 1 foul at halftime, then 4 fouls in 5 game minutes. He was done before the midway point of the second half. And then Kamari Lands, the 6'8" 3 guard, who had a couple of those big threes early. This was a team that, of all the mid-majors that Michigan could have faced, that they will face this year, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a team that has that type of size at a mid-major level. So, yeah, Michigan had some opportunities and some moments where they overwhelmed at times. They were able to, to take care of business in a way that, they were starting to pull away. But no, I think P. Maximus is dead on with the fact that, it's not quite there yet. There is tremendous individual talent. It exists. It is real. It's got to get there. It's got to get refined, and we're going to learn a great deal. But a great example to me of where this all is with just the randomness and the uniqueness of college basketball. Michigan will face Auburn on Tuesday. We're not getting ahead of ourselves with San Diego State, but just making a point here. Auburn is the Tuesday night matchup for Michigan in Las Vegas. On Sunday, they took Houston to the brink in it was a neutral site game, but it was in Birmingham. So, Auburn had plenty of fans there. And Houston, a lot of people's number 1 team in the country, national runner-up last year, all of that, was a 1-point Cougars win. The opener, less than 2 weeks prior, Auburn needed overtime to beat Bethune-Cookman. So you are in a spot now where you're feeling everybody out. You're trying to figure out just what this looks like. And certainly for Michigan, a game like this will help, where outside of Yaks, I think there's a lot of options to show, hey, what did Yaks do that showed up in the box score? Beyond that, everybody dabbled. They helped out. They were involved here and there. But it wasn't a situation where multiple guys went off and found a way to get it done. P. Maximus asking, do you agree with bringing Mara off the bench? Took a while to get going. Yeah, I'm open to pretty much anything right now. I think outside of Elliot Cadeau, I think anybody on this roster could be a starting option or could be a reserve. Now, the Yaks off the bench in game 1 was because of Oakland. I think he's the closest to being, yes, he's going to start. He's just too talented. But you can make the argument for bringing a 7'3" dude who put up double-doubles in his first 2 games on the floor after the first 3-4 minutes. You can make the argument of, oh, hey, you feel like you've settled into a ball game against Michigan, then here comes Morez Johnson Jr. Any of those veteran guards, Namari Burnett, Roddy Gale Jr., yeah, you want to bring those guys in off the bench. That's what you have as your, quote, reserves. And speaking of guys who made a real impact in this ball game, how about what LJ Kaysen did in the first half? Because similar to the needing some help, needing to find a way early on in a game was not by any stretch of the imagination a smooth first half. Michigan had to, they had to learn the ropes, right? They had to weather not a storm, but they had to kind of figure some things out. And LJ provided some of those same determined drives to the basket to get to the cup, find a way to score, all of that. And I was really impressed with what he brought to the table in this ball game. LJ is somebody that this staff is going to coach hard. They've developed a great relationship with LJ over the years. There is a ton of belief in his ability and what he brings as I don't want to call him the point guard, but the guy who brings it up is different than what Elliott brings. It's more of the Roddy Gale style, and we heard from some of the assistants over the summer. Yeah, there's a belief, there's a thought that Roddy could be that, provide some backup point guard minutes. I don't want to say he's the backup point guard because Dusty has talked about several times in the past. We want to be positionless. We want to have multiple guys bring it up the floor. There were times where last season, Danny Wolf was the quote backup point guard in this ball game. So I really believe that this team has a ton of options in that spot. It feels like the 9-man rotation is about where it's settled. We'll see with Winters Grady. I think it was a bummer that Winters and Coach May said it himself. It was a bummer that Winters Grady was banged up for the Oakland game because his shooting would have been perfect against that zone to get some real run. And he's been a little bit banged up. And gosh, coaches have said, players have said that Winters, he's always around and he might have pushed himself a little bit too much when it came to when he was having that foot issue. He was a little bit too forceful with the practice, with the warm-ups, with some of the work that he was doing. And it might have prolonged things a little bit. The staff had to sit him down. Where will Winters be? Where will Oscar Goodman be? He was somebody who I think stood out in practice where, if Yaks does not come to Michigan, if he is an NBA player right now, maybe Oscar Goodman has a real role on this team. And I think it was a really interesting comment Dusty May said recently that, we need players to buy in and understand that, the process might take a little bit longer. Guys like that can go and be instant impact players at a school that may not have those national championship potential expectations and really believe that can possibly happen. Whereas Dusty has said about Oscar, he's one rolled ankle away from having a real role, from being a guy off the bench that Michigan is going to need. And, injuries and issues are going to happen. That's going to be a part of this. That's why some of these opportunities to play those guys in games is incredibly helpful. We'll be joined now by Mike Boynton Jr. I appreciate his insight here on our post-game streams. Coach, how are you? Second half was fun.
Yeah, much better. We guarded better. We took away some of the 3-point rhythm that they had in the first half, and we were able to get ourselves out and get in transition a little bit more. And obviously, Yaks was a force there, getting to the paint and playing with power.
You told Terry at halftime that from an offensive standpoint, you liked the shots, felt they were wide open, just wanted to stay confident. Did you see that confidence show up in the second half with what ended up being a 50-point second half performance?
Yeah, I thought we took some more open threes. We obviously didn't make a bunch today. But we have got guys who have been proven good shooters. Amar Burnett got some really good looks tonight. Will Cheddar. And we got confidence those guys will make them. Trey McKinney's shown the ability to be a shot maker. But what we have to continue to do is when we're not making shots, not allow that to be the reason we're not playing well. And I thought we saw that a little bit today with Trey. I thought he started pressing a little bit. Obviously, he works at his game a lot, and sometimes it's hard when you don't get the results that you're looking for. But I thought for the most part, we continued to defend and rebound at a really high level, and our defense kind of carried us through the night.
I want to play a clip of my radio interview with Yaks. I thought it was a really interesting way how he described his drive to be more aggressive.
Okay.
And it's coming. Give me 1 second. I know it's there. I promise. I pressed the button.
Today was the first day I can say I was completely trying to be aggressive throughout. So it's a big step in the right direction for me. Just trying to show that I'm dominant. I can be dominant, and I didn't come here to just be so timid like I have been so far. So today was the right step in the direction for me.
He said that to me a few times. I know it's been a push from you and this staff. How'd that show up tonight?
Yeah, first of all, you look at the rebounding. That's always a pretty good tell of his activity, his involvement, his engagement. And he didn't have any offensive rebounds in the first half. We told him that. I think he ended up with 3 or 4. And so just seeing him play through contact, play through physicality, get to the glass, because at the end of the day, Yaks are still going to make the right play when they put 2 on the ball. So we have to have him understand when they play you single coverage, you have to show your talent there. And when they bring a second defender, then you can show the unselfish part of your game. But you got to allow your scoring to help your passing sometimes.
Yeah. The move with Will Cheddar to start. Dusty said to me pregame, hey, Final Four year, we had 2 all-league players coming off the bench. I know it's not a big focus from the coaching staff standpoint. It will get some play, some conversation externally. Curious what went into that. And do you think this staff is going to treat that starting lineup more of a, hey, in the first 4 minutes, where do we feel like we might be able to gain a little bit of an edge?
Yeah, I mean, I do think eventually we'll settle. I think it'll be good for everybody at some point. We're too early for that. This first month of the season, we're still trying to figure out how we function best together. And obviously getting off to a good start of the game always helps. And so we've had a different start lineup, I think, every game now. We see some things that we thought didn't necessarily work as well when we had the big lineup in. Our spacing offensively wasn't great. Our defense was elite, but you got to be able to do things on both sides of the ball. So tonight we just thought Will may give us a little bit more floor spacing. He makes the first 3 of the game. It helps. And so we'll continue to look at it. And I'm not saying we'll have the same starting lineup even in a month for the rest of the year, because a lot of what we do in preparation is try to figure out how we're going to win the game at that point. And so whatever units give us the best chance to play well is the units that we'll go with.
LJ, first half, you guys start trying to get into it. Middle certainly had a lot to do with some of the struggles offensively in the first half. What jolt did he provide your team?
He was just aggressive defensively. He really pestered the ball. We were really mindful of being disruptive defensively, causing havoc, creating some more deflections and creating some transition opportunities. And he did a really good job of really bothering the basketball, being the head of the snake on the defensive side, which I think then sparked the rest of the team that he's usually out there with, which is usually our second unit. A lot of times he's out there with, it was a die tonight coming in, Roddy, that group of guys, and those guys sparked us a little bit there.
From 22 turnovers against TCU to 13. And there were a few that I know will be, hey, you got to get better, insert player here. But did it feel like this was more of, yeah, we never want to commit a turnover, but the style of play is going to occasionally have that? Did this feel more of like what you would expect, a few mistakes, but others where it was just from aggressiveness, from trying to get a little bit out and running?
Yeah, I mean, Coach talks about it all the time. We don't mind turnovers that we think are going to be leading to dunks or layups. And so sometimes we take some chances in transition that maybe other teams don't. We also play a lot of possessions of basketball. And so by nature, we're going to be more susceptible to having more turnovers. Certainly something we're going to continue to address, because we don't want to gift the other team extra possessions. Especially once we get into Big Ten play, we want to have the percentage of our possessions that we turn the ball over be a minimal amount, knowing that we're still going to be an aggressive, fast team that tries to create as many possessions as possible. And we feel like because of our depth, the more possessions in the game, most of the time, the better for us.
Before I let you go, I don't want to take you too much from who was interrupting you there.
Zoe was just trying to tell me good night.
All good. The opportunity in Vegas. This is a really unique event. I think it's still something fans are trying to totally understand, but ultimately, if this team goes and wins a couple of games, there's a pretty good chance they're going to play either for a championship or in a third place game where you can go 3-0 and it kind of feels like a championship. What do you hope this team gets out of this, not just from the on-court, but also the experience of getting to go and be a part of a really unique event with 17 other teams? And we're talking some of the biggest names in college basketball, just in terms of team bonding experience, all that.
Yeah, all the stuff we do is preparing ourselves for being able to play our best basketball when it matters most. And that's late February, early March, and then to late March, hopefully. This setting will be somewhat similar to like a Big Ten tournament, if you will, where you're playing multiple days in a row. And then not always knowing your opponent. We know the first two. We won't know the third opponent until after we play. It also creates some situations where we have to use our depth to see how that works. We pressed a little bit tonight, for example. We'll see a lot of different styles of play out there, and obviously a high level of competition. But I hope also that this team is able to grow together because we feel like last year some of those road trips gave us a chance for our guys to really engage with one another, and we hope that this happens in Vegas as well.
So I just got the sheet. I want to make sure this is correct. You have, along with what is it, KT and Beej, Brandon Gilbert, you have the Wednesday game, correct?
I have the Wednesday potential 8 different opponent options.
So what does that? Because it's one thing where you know the 8, like Battle for Atlantis, Maui, whatever. You know that okay, one of these 4 teams.
Yep.
I mean, are you doing a little bit of film on 10 different teams, or how are you structuring the prep before what I'm guessing will be a night where you don't get a lot of sleep?
So, B, this is honestly where I watch so much basketball, right? Helps comes into play. I see a lot of teams randomly. Late night, I watch West Coast games. I was up watching Washington and Southern last night late. I watched UCLA and who'd they play 2 nights ago. So, I catch these random games, and then in a situation where like, hey, it could be any one of 8 teams. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I vaguely remember seeing that team play for about 8 minutes on Sunday 2 weeks ago. And so I'll have some recollection, some feel, but it'll be a unique challenge. I love challenges, and I'm excited to see how our team is able to respond to it, because the real truth of the matter is we won't have a whole lot of prep time anyway.
And you probably don't want to drill them with a whole lot, right? Because that'll be the third game in 3 days.
Yeah. No question.
All diminishing returns.
Absolutely. So we want to make sure that we have a succinct idea of who we are and be able to play to our strengths as much as possible.
All right. Well, Wednesday pregame, I'm just going to ask you, all right, what random game did you accidentally stumble upon? Insert opponent here, hopefully the championship game.
I feel very confident it's going to happen.
I know you will have watched at least a little bit of whoever we play. I'll be curious how much. We'll go watch some hoops. Go say goodnight to all the loved ones, and appreciate you always coming on here, Coach.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Appreciate you having me.
There is Mike Boynton Jr. Always thankful for him. I mean, he is. Yeah, you got to be a basketball junkie to do this as a coach at a high level. But yeah, I mean, he's next level. I did want to get to one more from P. Maximus. Appreciate him. And we'll have these every home win all season long. We're going to bring these to you. Have some. It won't be Coach Boynton every time. It's just been him the first couple based on scouts. But we'll be able to hopefully showcase the entire staff. More than anything else, excited for you all to share and get to know some of these staff members. They are really, really fun to talk to. Hungry basketball lifers, all of it. McKinney shot. I would say this about Trey McKinney's shot. It looks a little different. I don't think it's necessarily off. I mean, 1 for 10 obviously would have liked for it to have been better, certainly. But like I said, one of the biggest early plays in this game was what he did with that catch and shoot 3 off the inbound. It's going to be there. And I think there's a real question about how Michigan will get enough consistency from 3. But Trey McKinney is going to be a big part of that. And even with a 1 for 10 today, I think he still made some winning plays, some impactful plays in what was a Michigan win. So next week, it's a fun matchup on Monday. Michigan and San Diego State. Get to see Coach Dutcher and the Aztecs. They are a really good team. They turn the ball over a lot. I don't know if you've heard. Michigan's done that a little bit. So that will be a unique challenge for Michigan. Then the Sweet 16 rematch against Auburn, and then shrug emoji for who Michigan will play Wednesday or potentially Thursday. But hopefully Wednesday, that means Michigan is getting some victories in Vegas. So thanks to Coach Boynton for stopping by. Thanks to all of you for watching. And we'll be back with one of these again when the Wolverines get back home to Chrysler. Get your tickets, mgoblue.com/tickets. It's going to be fun at Chrysler all season long. So for Coach Boynton, I'm Brian Bush. Thanks as always for tuning in, and go blue.